South India has spent decades telling people to have smaller families. Now some of the states are asking a very different question. Tamil Nadu has just joined that conversation. The Vijay government has announced 365 days of paid maternity leave for women government employees having a third child. A big, big, big boost. A welcome move, many may say. That is a major jump from the existing 12-week limit for the third child, effectively putting third child maternity benefits on par with the first two. But this is not just about maternity leave, or is it? Is this about delimitation politics, the fear of it, or is this really about women's welfare? Tamil Nadu's fertility rate has fallen sharply. Health Minister KG Arunraj has said the state's TFR is now below 1.4, far below the replacement level of 2.1. And Tamil Nadu is not alone. Andhra Pradesh is going even bigger. The state has proposed incentives for third and fourth children, nutritional support, free education, and extended parental benefits. Chief Minister Chandrababu Naidu has openly argued that larger families are needed to tackle aging and future labor shortages. Telangana has also scrapped the two-child norm for local elections. So why is South India suddenly worried about babies? One, the word delimitation. Southern states fear that population-based delimitation could reward states with larger populations while reducing the relative political weight of states that successfully controlled fertility. So after decades of hum do hamare do mindset, parts of South India are now confronting a new demographic dilemma. What happens when population control becomes a population concern? And then you have an aging population, an increasingly aging population and a shrinking younger population. I'm being joined by Mitali Nikore, who's a senior economist, Shikha Mukherjee, senior journalist, as well as Manu Gaur should be joining us shortly. Thank you very much, both of you, for joining me. I'm also being joined by Vijay Grover, who's a senior journalist. Thank you very much, all three of you, for joining me. Well, Mitali Nikore, let me just start with you. How do you look at this? You are a young woman, you are a working woman. You are working on the ground with a whole lot of women entrepreneurs. How do you look at this? Because it comes in two aspects. One, a maternity leave, a fully paid 1 year maternity leave if you're having a third child. And then you have the juxtaposition of a lot of southern states now attempting to woo couples into getting a third child.
Absolutely. First of all, thanks for having me on the show and on this discussion. See, I think what is this actually showing? This is showing that somewhere the southern Indian states collectively have this mindset that, we have to do something about fertility. We have to do something to incentivize women, and it's always women, right, that this messaging goes out to. And I think that's my bigger problem with this, to have bigger families. Now, the issue here is that there is a reinforcement of social norms and patriarchal norms when you increase only a maternity leave, but you don't actually think about any other mechanisms of supporting working families. So if you look at, the international research, and we've done a lot of that here at Nikor Associates, when you look at the norms in several countries, countries are moving away from gendered parental leaves to gender neutral parental leaves. Give a 12-month parental leave, give a 6-month parental leave. Don't mention whether it's for the father or the mother, and let the family decide which one of the couple is actually going to avail that leave. Now, obviously, it's a little bit difficult for a state government to do that because they only can give the leaves to government employees. But please note, in this instance also, there's no extension of paternity leave. That happens to be 2 weeks. So every time there is a child, it suddenly becomes a responsibility solely of the mother to take a break in her career, which could be, up to a year, which the state is saying, oh, sure, we'll pay for that. We don't mind, but you're still going to fall behind in your career. So at the end of the day, this is a calculation for women, not only about the amount of compensation that they're getting from a state government, but also about whether they want that third child at that stage of their career, especially when the state is doing nothing for men to contribute to child rearing, which they can definitely do.
Right. In fact, Vijay Grover, let me come to you. You are based out of South of India. You are seeing a lot of this play. Firstly, let me ask you this. How do you look at Vijay's move? Are you seeing it in the shadow, in the light of whatever is happening across South when we talk about population concerns? Or how do you look at it?
Well, see, population concerns were flagged, or actually, the common man started discussing it only when the delimitation issue came up. That the southern states felt that they were being punished for the simple reason that they have done better on the socio-economic index. And I don't want to draw parallels with the North Indian states because they fare very badly with TFRs of 2.9, 2.8 and that kind of thing. But very clearly, the announcements today by Vijay will not make much of a difference in terms of what the impact should be. For the simple reason, we are talking of how many government employees were women versus the entire population. So if you're just going to give it for the women government employee, have that kind of incentive only for them that they have 1 year of paid leave. It is not something that will think. The only thing is the messaging is in the right direction. And if I were to draw a parallel with the grown economies or the developed economies like South Korea, which has a TFR of zero point 0.7, or Hong Kong, which has a 0.74. Now, when you draw to those things, or we have a very classic example of Japan. Japan was so on a moral high ground that they didn't allow any other races to get resident visas earlier. But today they are willing to do it because they need the manpower. So we do not in the South want that kind of excess migration. Already we have an issue of enough migration from the North Indian states and the northeastern states that the labor itself is there. And if this ratio were to go down worse, I think so. Tamil language, Tamil culture, or the Karnataka's culture would gradually diminish. So this is a messaging, no doubt about it. But the
I
impact
think
of
coming
Vijay's
just within
statement will
100
not be
days
much.
of just the government is setting the tone and the direction for what one can expect from this government in terms of policies and what their focus is going to be. But Ms. Shikha Mukherjee, I want to come to you and I want to ask you a very important question. Politics will be politics. It will be played with a male gaze as it has been seen for a very, very long time. You want the population up. Who bears the burden of it? So, on one hand, you want women to enter the workforce more and more. We're celebrating the increasing workforce of women. We are saying so much about it. The other side, you have politicians, male netas, and immediately I may be reminded by people of Indira Gandhi, and they'll say, oh, you're forgetting the woman Neta, Indira Gandhi, what she did at her time. We're talking about today's time. We're talking about chief ministers from states after states who are worried possibly for the right reasons. But the way this plays out, how is this going to work out practically, Ms. Shikha? For any state, for the country as a whole, you want to push a third child. Where on earth are the finances to handle a third child?
There are two ways of looking at it, and that's very interesting. And I'm entirely in agreement with Mitali, for instance, that the whole way of looking at it is as just maternity leave and not parental leave is something which needs to be considered. But if you look at the trigger, and if I think that I don't know, perhaps I can be corrected. I think the trigger is the arrival of a woman MLA with a newborn child in the Tamil Nadu Assembly. And that becomes an issue with a lot of people reacting to the presence of this newborn child in the assembly, in the Vidhan Sauda. So the whole business of a child, a woman, in a preserve which was essentially male, becomes a matter of controversy, and then it becomes, giving leave. The problem is that and I agree with Mitali on this, women really don't necessarily have to be the people who are taking the lead. That's one. The second is not the cost. It's not the cost of just providing salaries to women. It is the other costs which nobody is going to pay anyone. If you look at how Japan has incentivized children, if you look at how South Korea has incentivized children, if you look at how any country in the world is using a whole basket of incentives to convince women and families. You see, it's not a woman's decision, it's a family decision. And it's something that, it's not just the man saying that, okay, great, you get 365 days leave, you take care of the baby. It's a family decision. All this decision making, all this, and the family will have to take the long-term cost of this child, in that sense, the Andhra government's uh, sort of support is a more realistic support for education, for health, and for other things. Gifting a child, newborn baby, a gold ring is rubbish. It doesn't do anything for the baby and for the parents, because today parenting is very expensive, no matter who you are, no matter what you could afford, it's still an expensive business. So, and then you think about the what it does to families. People have to really think differently today. You can't just announce 365 days of maternity leave for women and think that, this is enough and nothing more has to be thought of, nothing more has to be done. Um, you have to figure out how women are going to actually, and that, how families are going to look after their third child. It's not a simple thing. And then, of course, there's the politics of it is quite simple. The politics of it is delimitation.